we're given this sequence, and we want to come up with a formula, and whether the sequence converges or diverges. So let's first notice the negative here. So the sign changes from negative to positive. And for the odd terms, it's going to be positive or negative. So when n is 1, it's negative. N is 2 is positive, etc. Notice in the numerator we have 3 and then 12. Well, to go from 3 to 12, you just multiply by 4. And to go from 3 to 27, you just multiply by 9. And to go from 3 to 48, just multiply by 16. Continuous pattern, 3 is just 3 times 1. Notice that 1, 4, 9, and 16 are perfect squares, so we can rewrite it as 3 times 1 squared, 3 times 2 squared, 3 times 3 squared, and 3 times 4 squared. In the denominator, we look at 2 and 6. How do you go from 2 to 6? You multiply by 3. So 6 could be rewritten as 2 times 3. 12 is just 3 times 4. And then 20 is 4 times 5. And then 2 is just 1 times 2. So now we have all the pieces to write this as a formula. So obviously 3 is present everywhere, so we're going to multiply by 3. And then notice that the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 correspond with the n's. So that'd be like 3 times n squared. The denominator, we have 1 times 2. So when n is 1, you substitute n is 1, you have n and then times n plus 1. And because the sign alternates, we just put it as negative 1 to the nth power. Okay, so that's our formula. Now let's find the limit. In order to find limit, I'm just going to distribute the n first to the n and the plus 1. And notice that this 3 is a constant, so I can just pull it outside. Okay, the next thing is, well, if I ignore the negative 1 to the nth power, I see that 3 times limit as n approaches infinity of 1 over 1 plus n to the negative first power, that's just 3 because n to the negative first goes to 0, and then this limit right here goes to 1. And so 3 times 1 is 3. Similarly, if I just looked at this limit, but instead of 1, you just put negative 1, that would just go to negative 3. So if I just look at this limit from with a negative 1 to the nth power, that's going to oscillate between negative 3 and 3. So it's going to go back and forth from negative 3 to 3. So technically, this limit doesn't exist because the limit has to be unique. You cannot go to 2 different places. So here you technically would say it does not exist. And so since the limit doesn't exist, the sequence diverges. And so that is our answer.